Show on Joy, and we're so excited. You're very welcome to the first edition of Corruption Watch for 2025. Corruption Watch is sponsored by the European Union in collaboration with our partners, the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD Ghana, the Ghana Integrity Initiative, GII, the Ghana Anti-Corruption Coalition, GACC, and the Africa Center for International Law and Accountability, ASILA. And of course, it's live here on Joy FM. Corruption Watch is also on Adom FM. All right, now listen, on this Corruption Watch segment today, we're going to feature a total recall, okay? First of all, our partners are here. They're going to walk us through exactly what Corruption Watch is, just in case you've been living under a rock all this time and have no idea what it is. They'll also tell us all the exciting new features that we can expect. Now, after that, we're going to remind you of some of the most impactful stories and investigations that Corruption Watch has done. We have the investigators are here with us. They're going to be telling us the stories behind the stories, okay, and also what solutions were achieved at the end of it. That's not all. We're also going to have some of the people who were most affected or impacted by some of the stories that Corruption Watch has done, and they will tell us about the effect of Corruption Watch on their lives. All right, so let me tell you who's here with us in the studio this morning. Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante, Director of Policy, Engagement and Partnerships at CDD Ghana. And he might not want me to tell you, but he's the brain behind Corruption Watch. The whole thing started with the conversation across his desk one afternoon in 2017. How could I forget? Doc, how nice to see you. Good morning.
Good morning, Kojo.
Yes, indeed.
See you.
And of course, Dr. Asante is here with Mrs. Mary Awenlana Ada. I think she has the nicest middle name in Ghana. She's the executive director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative. Mary Ada is no stranger to our show, and it's great to have you back, Mary. How are you?
I'm good, Kojo. Good morning to you and to your listeners.
Indeed.
It's good to see you.
It's always great to have you. Thanks for making the time. And of course, one of the brains behind all of the investigation, the guy who has infiltrated more criminal organizations than Anas. Frederick Esiama is the Corruption Watch investigator. He joins us here in the studio. Frederick, it's great to see you.
Good to see you, and good to be back in this nice studio of yours.
Thank you. And also, we're going to have Francisca Enchil join us over the phone. She's the other Corruption Watch investigator. Francisca, of course, award-winning investigative journalist. We'll be hearing also from Regina Saba, who's a trader. She's an affected person in one of the stories done by Corruption Watch. In fact, Frederick will tell us about it. It was called Twisted Justice. We'll also hear from Jerry Kumson. Now, he was a victim of Pay or Die. Now, that was a big one. Story that took us into Kolebu Teaching Hospital, among other institutions. Francisca will give us the briefing on that. But right now, listen, let's start the conversation with you, Dr. Asante, okay? And look, for those of us here, as far as we know what Corruption Watch is. We've been with you since the beginning. But there are some people listening who are wondering, why are these Joy people so excited about this thing this morning? What is Corruption Watch? So I think I'll give you the chance to walk us through it.
Well, thank you, Kojo. And we are really happy to be back. Oga and Madam are still dropping our money. So we can't go away. We have to work. But Corruption Watch, as you recall, started because we were worried about just the way in which we were discussing corruption. It comes in the news item and everybody forgets about it. Nobody's following up. And we thought, how can we collaborate with media to have a sustained focus on corruption issues so that we can have a real 360 in trying to make corruption a very costly venture for for those who want to participate in it. And really that's how the partnership started. And we created this 1 hour segment show, to provide a platform for us to have that kind of conversation. We have a model that we created with 5 segments, and the idea was we were going to be persistent in chasing corruption issues. We were going to ensure that there was punishment, that we were going to ensure that there was payback, recovery of, the loot that has been looted by people. But we were interested in how we change the rules or the environment that makes it so easy for people to engage in corruption, so that we can have prevention. So our 5 P's, which you came up with, our 5 P's, but it has been a very simple guide as to how we have to treat the corruption issue. That it is not just a media headline or just an episode, but we try to really try and eliminate corruption, root out corruption from public life by making sure that we follow these cases, cases that have been there that nobody's looking at, just to make sure that there's a certain sense of deterrence that happens. So that's been the Corruption Watch story, as you said, from about 2018 when we really started hitting the ground. We've gone through many cycles of it. I'm glad that we're still here and we're still able to do that job.
Now, let me bring in Mary. I mean, GII has been a partner of Corruption Watch from the very, very beginning. Tell us about, your own reflections of how this partnership has worked over the years.
Great. So for us, it's been a very worthy partnership because the conversation around promoting anti-corruption behavior in Ghana started a long time ago. For us, we also believe that as civil society, we needed to go beyond just talking to people in their silos and promoting that throughout, because how many people can you engage after all when you are convening? So we believe this partnership has been a very good one that has promoted interaction between civil society and also the media. So we have CDD leading with civil society and academics coming together to put this novel idea in practice. So it's been good. And it showed a lot of results, as I believe Frederick and others would be sharing. So for us in anti-corruption, we couldn't have had a better engagement, and also because we are like-minded civil society organizations and also academics on board providing technical support, we haven't had any challenges that we should be talking about, but successes. We anticipate that going forward, a lot more of the technical expertise that complements ours, a lot more of the common grounds that we brought on board, because GI in itself had a corruption reporting platform, but the added benefit, that's the ILAC, the Advocacy and Legal Advice Center, which brings on board some examples of what we do in Corruption Watch. So for us it was complementary. It's been novel, it's been very good for us, and looking at how we get our stories also then speaks to the fact that when we work together we are able to achieve more. And the fact that we brought on board investigative journalists to proactively solicit some of these cases and then also follow up on what we have received, I believe is a very good one. And most people also got to know about CW, and I believe it's also good. It's good. Going forward, we need to do more of that. Even for our partners or our external partners, they believe that it's better to work together than to work in silos. So for me, I think that's the best idea of working together. Bringing all sectors, perhaps not government, but we have private interests, we have civil society, and also academia. So it shows that there are a lot of results we can gain. And the support, when you work alone, the issues of taking the risk alone is high. But the support you gain working together, it's a good one. There's no fear when you speak, because you know you have a backbone. You are not afraid. And when you have information, you know it's validated. So information, fidelity and credibility is also very high. We are not saying we get it 100% of the times, but with the background checks that go into this, we are very sure that there is credibility of information. And working with like minds, we are making the gains that we made during the implementation of the first phase, supported by STAC and other partners, than either later. We only hope that we'll have more. Speaking to the external partners going forward, more than the EU coming on board to support this process.
Amen to that. Dr. Asante, I know that when Corruption Watch started, the goal was to change things. So let's talk about that. What are some of the things that we wanted to change? What are the reforms that we were pursuing with Corruption Watch?
I think the goal is simple. We want integrity in public life. Because every public officer that's appointed or elected is using public money, is making decisions on behalf of the public in the public interest. If they don't have integrity, then it means that they either use it for their own personal benefit, their family or group, which is the issue that we continue to grapple with. So we want to create a public sector where there's integrity. If there's integrity, it's more likely that every resource, every city will actually go to serve the public interest, provide public services. But we also want accountability, because we want those who are entrusted with public power to be held accountable. Right? But generally, and sort of more immediate, you want to reduce or control corruption. And we want through this effort to be able to make institutions more responsive to corruption issues, so that a corruption case 10 years, 8 years can still be hanging. Nobody checks what's going on. We try to do some little things with the OSP, even reporting every half year, so that we can track what our investigative bodies, posterior bodies are doing around corruption. So it's just really trying to change the culture around corruption. Institutions are more responsive. Citizens are more focused on making sure that corruption cases are dealt with. If people are found guilty, that they are punished. But most importantly, we also recover what they have stolen, basically. So it's still the same sort of objective that we have, that we want to pursue this time round.
Mary, would you say that so far Corruption Watch has been achieving its objectives?
Certainly, perhaps not all, because we talk about policy changes taking a while to manifest. And so through the policy cycle, we can confidently say that we set the agenda, and in ensuring that everyone who is within that space or a stakeholder within the policy space understood what Corruption Watch intended to achieve, promoting accountability in the lives of the public officer, and motivating and empowering the citizen to ensure that we are demanding transparency from the public office holder, as the NACAP wanted us to do, that we build citizens' capacity to demand integrity from public office. And I believe other laws have done so. So for us, to the large extent, when it comes to the policy space, at least we identified the problem, that not every Ghanaian understood what it meant to talk about corruption. And in many of the instances, we quantified what it meant when we talk about corruption, and in the quantification we showed evidence. If somebody steals 100 million, that 100 million could have gone into building a school or a hospital facility, or provided a certain service for the beneficiary communities. Again, we were able to show evidence that corruption takes from the poor and enriches the few in society. So for us, we provided grounds for setting the agenda when it comes to policy. Again, if you look at within the spaces of governance, we're able to get some very good calls, and these have reflected in many of the manifestos that were churned out by the political parties during the elections last year. And they've been reflected in the current government's call for anti-corruption. When we talk about its agenda to promote oral Operation Recover All Loot, one of the key things we did under Corruption Watch was to uncover rot, uncover corrupt behavior. We went through the lengths and breadths of this country to do so through the investigative journalists and the legal brains, including Kojo, ensured that whatever we gained we put into briefs which we use to discuss with our political actors. And it goes beyond oral, as I've always said. Now we see in the manifestos they call to bring together all our anti-corruption laws. That's another call Corruption Watch has looked at, because we saw that we had a lot of gaps within the system which were not being addressed. And so if we ensure that we did a lot more in bridging or bringing together these processes, it will help. If you remember, on Corruption Watch we talked a lot about asset declaration and the liability regime. Again, this has been documented. We talked a lot about not just assets but also code of conduct and conflict of interest. This is also being captured in policy. So to a large extent, if you want me to grade Corruption Watch, because perhaps I am a partner, I would be biased, but to be fair, I can say that 80% of the times we did a very good job in influencing policy, in shaping behavior and practice, and that is the essence of advocacy. And today you realize from the previous elections that Ghanaians spoke without question when it comes to the issue of loot, when it comes to the issue of lack of attention to the issues that they believed were at the heart of governance in this country. So we did a good job.
And could you, I think we have to admit that the corruption issue, we've always, even at that time, we're saying corruption was normalizing. And it really did need that kind of constituency that was trying to remind people that corruption cannot be good for us. It's not sustainable. It's actually a threat to everything we believe, whether our democracy, our development. And that's that. Even when people feel like it's so overwhelming and what we are doing is not changing everything, the fact that we are still in there fighting, reminding people that they shouldn't get too used to the whole idea of corruption. And a lot of the cases that we have done, some that really go to the heart of what we are trying to do, whether you talk about blood for sale, whether you talk about the cheating squad, this culture of cheating and exams that all of a sudden exploded
and became normal.
That you force the system to wake up that this cannot be normal, and that the agencies, whether it's WAEC or whatever, have to do that. I don't think if you didn't have a Corruption Watch, you could have done that. And the fact that it's still there, we have this show, Joy FM, the multimedia group, what you do, just as a reminder to people that no, don't just accept it as normal, because it's not good for you. It would definitely ruin everybody if we keep going the way we are going. And so at least you see that in the election period that there's a shock to the system. There's something we are trying to do. And that's why I think this is so important. We have to keep doing it, because the alternative is not is very ugly.
Yeah. You gave a couple of examples of some of the successes there. I'm sure there are more. Any other successes Corruption Watch has chalked that you want to highlight?
I think one of the things about even just sustaining the interest, as I said, is people just at some point, you're tired about corruption. We're always talking about corruption. Yeah, because you want to pretend that it's not there, but that is not something. It's like drug addiction or something like that. You get to a point you think, oh yeah, that's we have to sustain that interest in it and chase all the corruption cases that we can, and we'll continue to do that. But I think also for me, as I said, I like what has happened with some of the cases that we've exposed. Really, that, as I said, go to the core of why corruption is a bad thing, and we have to do everything to stop it. If you need blood, to save the life of your of your family member, of your wife, your sister, your brother, and you have to go and pay, some middleman or whatever, so that they can go and steal some blood and somebody else's blood, give it to you. And this is going on, all the time, and exposing that and trying to get all these hospitals to put in measures to stop that kind of behavior. The Franciscans, and I'm sure she'll talk about it, about women who in labor who are supposed to be not paying for things, and then they're extorting money from them. We did bail for sale.
Yeah.
People, were put in prison, in cells, and we've been police people were extorting money from them, all kinds of people were extorting, and their freedoms were deprived, So this is when we start talking about corruption. Sometimes when we talk about the ground corruption, and when you hear about the ECG thing and stuff, the container stuff, that is mega levels of corruption, because but when you begin to put it to people's everyday lives, particularly for the poor, who basically, apart from being, not having the money to access quality health services, have to pay, additional monies, even just to get the not so good quality health service. So that's what I think for me, stopping corruption is about. It's really about freeing people from this really terrible life that we have created through corruption that is impacting our citizenry. Yeah.
If you just joined us, well, Corruption Watch is back on Joy. And for those of you who are now getting familiar with it and you're wondering, what does a Corruption Watch investigation even sound like? Well, Frederick and Francisca are here. They're about to give us the stories behind the stories. Stay with us.
Our money, when our money, our money, when our money.
Now on his guard, and two of the people who have made that possible are investigators Frederick and Francisca. We're going to learn a bit from them now. And listen, Corruption Watch has put out a whopping 25 investigative stories since its inception back in 2017. Now today, because we don't have a lot of time, we're going to highlight 4 of these stories. Okay, these are among our most impactful stories in terms of the subject matter, the nature of the corruption that was perpetrated, the impact on some of our citizens, the response of the state institutions concerned, and of course the measures taken for changes to be implemented. All right, so listen, I want you to listen to this clip. It's a very short one, but it gives you a flavor of 4 of our top stories. Stay with us.
I just want the people who come to work in the court to be a little bit honest.
A woman is losing so much blood right after delivery. There is a medication to save her. The hospital has it, but she will not receive this life-saving medication if her husband doesn't raise the money to pay for it.
your friends, your license, near the 1 week, but the 1,003. Okay, now 1 month, the 1,001. 20. Yes. Yeah, you've been a normal one, say 800.
Yeah. Those stories were so deeply impactful. And our two investigators are here, Frederick and Francisca. Francisca joins us over the phone. Francisca, good morning. Do we have Francisca on the phone? Okay, we'll work to connect to Francisca. But Frederick is here in the studio, and you've been listening as Doc and Mary have been walking us through the background of all of this. But in 2019, Frederick, you investigated alleged corruption in the Adan District Court. Now, this resulted in the story that we called Twisted Justice. Listen, why don't you walk us through what you discovered and what happened after that story was aired?
Okay, thank you. So, in 2019, we got some people calling us and complaining about their money being stuck at the Adan court, that they had won cases, they were entitled to some monies, and the monies were not being released to them. So we did a bit of research and realized that the Adan court was notorious for some offenses. Some previous magistrates and registrars had been removed for misconduct. So we went in to do the investigation, and from one person it became 2, 3, 4, and we found people of diverse backgrounds who had their monies locked up. And basically this is the thing. So you win a case, and some money is awarded to you, and the process is that the money is supposed to be paid into court, and then the person that won the case is supposed to apply for it and receive the money from the court. But the registrar was telling people that, the other party has not paid the money yet. And our investigation revealed that indeed some of the monies had been paid to him, except that he was not releasing it. When we went into it, we also saw that some of it had come to the attention of the magistrate at the time, and there were some form of negotiation going on to allow the registrar to take his time to pay some of the money. So we built the story around two people. One of the star witnesses was Regina Saba, who was entitled to about 6,000 cedis. She had sold a land, she had bought a land from a pastor. On going back to the land to work, she discovered that the land had been sold to another person. So she reported to the police. Then the man was arrested, and so before the registrar, the magistrate actually hears the case, he ordered that the money should be paid to the woman so that they don't lose the value by the time the case is over. But this money was still with the registrar, and so eventually we were able to record an interaction in the chambers of the magistrate, and then we did a story. The judicial service immediately picked up, set up 2 investigative committees, one against the registrar and the other one against the magistrate. And upon the findings of the 2 committees, the Judicial Council decided that Nana Kwesi Kunadu, Benjamin Kwesi Kunadu, who was the registrar, should be dismissed. And so he was dismissed from the judicial service, while the magistrate, his worship Isaac Ejay, was transferred from the Adan court.
Wow, that's some impact right there. Now, I had hoped that we could speak to Regina, who you mentioned in that story. Sadly, I'm being told that we're struggling to connect with her. But let's hope that we have Francisca on the line now. Francisca, good morning.
Good morning, Kojo.
Ah, there you are. Hi, Francisca.
Hello, Kojo. Good morning to you, and good morning to the listeners.
Now, in case you're not aware, Francisca is actually the first female to win the GJA Investigative Journalist of the Year award here in Ghana. Charlie, we're a big woman. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, of course, you've done some groundbreaking stories on Corruption Watch.
Yeah.
One of them, one of the most impactful ones was pay or die. Okay, and this one was about the agony of pregnant women in hospitals, and it was broadcast in June 2021. I mean, give us a bit of a roundup of that story.
Okay, so that story exposed the abuse of the maternal health care component of the National Health Insurance Policy. And so we realized during the investigation that the hospitals were abusing the provisions of this policy and were denying pregnant women critical maternal health care. The policy provides 100% cover for pregnant women through antenatal, which covers lab, scans and everything, medication, to delivery and then to postnatal. Whether you did the vaginal delivery or through surgical delivery, everything is supposed to be covered 100%. But then this investigation found that these pregnant women were being denied this free health care. They are registered onto the National Health Insurance Policy, so they are supposed to enjoy free maternal health care, and that they were being denied this access to health care. Even those at the verge of death, where they are losing a lot of blood after delivery, the hospitals withheld the medication that could save their lives and demanding money before giving the medications out. So the story exposed these findings, and then the stakeholders of the health service, indeed, they played a very good role. They took action immediately. The Ministry of Health set up a committee. The Ghana Health Service, the Ministry of Health, and then National Health Insurance Authority were part of the committee. And they investigated our findings and confirmed our findings. And so the bills that had been brought to the National Health Insurance Authority for payment back to them as part of what they have taken care of patients for. This payment was withheld because patients had already illegally paid for these services. And the hospitals had brought these bills back to the National Health Insurance for payment. And so they were disallowed the payment. And then the National Health Insurance Authority went a step further to give refunds to victims captured by us. We submitted receipts of payments of about 8 patients as evidence of our findings to the National Health Insurance Authority. And then the authority then used this and gave them a refund. Over 16,000 was in total refund. That was 16,469 cedis, 71 pesos was the total amount of money that was given to the victims that we brought in contact with the National Health Insurance Authority. They also did adjustments of the tariff because, according to them, during their investigations, these hospitals justified their acts with the fact that they were having low tariffs for the covered services. And so the National Health Insurance did an adjustment of the tariff. Some of them went as far as 100% and to 30% of the tariffs, so that they will be able to give better services and not give excuses. And then there was one facility, the Taifa Health Facility, their polyclinic. We exposed the fact that they were running a theater, and this theater was charging patients as if it was a private service they were running. And then they were bringing in professionals from different facilities to come and run. And then when you do the surgical operation and you are delivered of your baby, they detain you. So there were patients who were on medical detention at this facility. And so after our expose, this patient was discharged without, and then the money she had earlier paid was refunded to her as well. And then the theater was shut down because they were supposed to go to some processes and get permits before they can run the theater, which they had not done before operating it. And so it was also shut down. The National Health Insurance Authority also set up a number of committees from national to regional to the district level, where they were supposed to be stationed in major facilities and be monitoring these illegal payments, which National Health Insurance Authority describes as the co-payment system. It's an illegal fee when you have a national health insurance card with you and you are going to deliver, you are not supposed to pay anything. And so, as I'm speaking today on this story, I would want to even give a reminder to our listeners: if your wife or relative is in labor and needs critical health care, and they insist you pay for covered services, you can go ahead and pay because the life is more important. But after making the payment, just ensure to keep your receipts and go to the nearest National Health Insurance Authority office and hand over the receipt and report the hospital. Yeah. The National Health Insurance promises to take steps to get refunds and punish the health facilities for their actions.
Wow, thanks for that, Francisca. Now, somebody who was a victim of this at the Kolebu Teaching Hospital is Jerry Kumson. Jerry joins us to briefly explain his ordeal. Jerry, good morning.
Good morning, sir.
So, I mean, tell us, they were making you pay these unauthorized illegal payments. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. We went to the hospital, fully registered with the National Health Insurance Scheme. And I'm trusting that with the scheme, we're going to make payments. It wouldn't be that huge. It came out to be. So, upon arrival, they directed us to certain places to make some deposits. Those were without receipts initially. So that was when I inquired whether the health insurance is not covering all this stuff. And then the nurse asked whether I'm there to teach them how to do their job. I said, okay, that's fine. So I made a payment and we proceeded, and they directed us to the ward where she was admitted. And then you'll be waiting and they come and tell you, go and get this particular drug. You get there, the lady will tell you have to deposit 50 cedis. You make the deposit. They give you some drug, they tell you go to this place and get this one. And then when you get there, they tell you go to the bank, make this payment, and come back with the receipt. So apparently, I concluded and then the health insurance is just a scam because it's only on paper.
Yeah.
If you come and make all these payments with the insurance, then it's just on paper.
Yeah.
So,
Jerry, how did this affect you and your family?
It really did affect me psychologically. Like I said, I concluded that as citizens, we are not being fair to ourselves because I've been educated that the health insurance, especially for pregnant women, is free when you go to the hospital. But here is the case: I get there and it's a different story. Wherever you are directed to go, you have to make an X amount of payments before you get any medication or whatever treatment that needs to be meted out to your wife. And in fact, I was disappointed in the system. Yeah, I was very disappointed in the system. But then, since I have to save my wife and child's life, I have to comply. And I was doing just that. So apparently, making all those payments, and almost all other places were directing me to go to the bank to make payments and bring the receipt. So I thought it's an official stand of the facility. Because hadn't been for the ward to be taking them illegally, then they wouldn't ask you to go to the bank.
Yeah.
But once you're making payments at the bank, then it means that's the stance and the policy there. So I just concluded that, well, it is what it is. So let me just comply and then to save my wife's life. So apparently, that is the frustration I went through, and I just have to do it.
How would you say that the work of Corruption Watch helped your situation?
It did a great to me and the family. In fact, the lady, I had my doubts so that the monies could be refunded, even though she assured me whatever I paid for was supposed to be free, and they are going to make sure I get my refunds. I said to myself, I didn't pay them at the worst without, even though I made some payments without receipts, most of them and the huge amounts went through the bank. So how are you going to get them? But then with time And then going through the process, when we were finally called to the head office of the NHIA and the monies were refunded, I had a mixed feeling. I was both surprised and happy at the same time. One, I was happy because it was going to help me pay some debts I incurred at the time.
Yeah.
And then surprised because if all these monies were not meant to be taken and they are doing that at the hospital, you can imagine a lot of people who are going to go through some sort of suffering. Some are even going to lose life because they may not have the amount probably I had to pay to get here. And when they're supposed to get them for free. So I was very disappointed with the staff of the facility. And if they knew they were not supposed to take the money and they were doing that, then I think as a country we are not doing good for ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, thank God for Corruption Watch, eh? Thank you.
Yeah. I'm very, very happy about the program, and I encourage you to keep doing that. I commend you for the good work you're doing for the country. You don't know what you're doing to save lives. You're saving a lot of lives, and I encourage you to keep doing it. God will surely bless you.
Well, God bless you too, Jerry.
Sure.
All right, now let's come back to the studio for a moment. Dr. Asante, one other important piece of work Corruption Watch has done was on unregulated campaign financing, okay, and pretty much the abuse of state resources. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, so I think a couple of years when we started Corruption Watch, we began to focus on particular institutions and sectors. So looking at particular problems where we think that was like a big driver of corruption, and monetization of our politics we felt was one of the biggest drivers of corruption, because a lot of people seeking to represent Ghanaians were getting indebted. Some even were receiving illicit financing from Galamsey, from illegal timber, illegal fishing, all kinds of people doing 419 and all of those things. And that was bringing that into the political space. So we started a real focus on trying to understand what was happening in this space. We started with the I think it was first the election of primaries for MPs within the parties. That was a huge story, if you recall, all across the country. And then we looked at the election of executives for the parties, right from polling station level to constituency level to regional level to national level. We've gone through that, gathering all of that data. We've also tracked in the last election abuse of incumbency with GII, GACC, and we even produced the documentary on the abuse of incumbency of the vice president who was the presidential candidate of the MPP in the last election. So what really, I mean, and that's the thing about Corruption Watch, this combination of think tanks, research, organizations, working with media to create this, very rich, data and information and drive around corruption. I mean, now we have the fourth estate and so on and so forth. But that kind of combination, I think, it's itself a success. But what this has done is that it's helped us to use that as additional information to drive the policy around campaign financing reform, because the empirical data is now there. We can show you, we have videos, we have audio to show you exactly how this happened and why it becomes a problem if we don't try and do something about campaign financing reform. So that has been and it's something, as we talk about some of the features in the current version of Corruption Watch, is one of the areas we'll continue to do, which is really focus on particular institutions where we feel if we can do something around corruption around the institution, it would really impact the lives of citizens. So yeah, the campaign financing one is, I'm really happy we did that work, because I think because CDD, for example, and with its partners, campaign finance is going to be one of the key reform issues that we push in the next 2 years.
Very important. Let's look to the future. I mean, since you've talked about what we can expect in the next few years, let's look to the future. Doc, I hear we have some new features on the show.
Yes. So we are maintaining our 5 Ps and our segments, the Just Like Us, the total recalls that we do, the exposés that we do. But this time round, we also want to go to the regions. So for this period, we really trying to identify about 5 media houses in the regions where we can support them to build up an investigative desk and be able to also generate investigative pieces, because there's a lot of issues also at local level, and also we want to use the opportunity to train investigative journalists at regional and local levels, right? So that really is going to expand the Corruption Watch work, and then ALAC is also going to be expanding regionally. So we want to then combine, all these resources within the country to be able to get more media houses focused on the investigative work. I mean, multimedia, what you do is not just brave, but it is you lead when it comes to investigative journalism and so on. You kind of lead the way. You produce some of the best investigative journalists the country is known, and that's been a tradition. But everybody knows that it comes with a lot of risk.
Exactly.
And what we have tried to do is to, with this structure, with this model, is to minimize the risk. That the legal risk that comes with investigative journalism, and we want to be able to extend that to the regions. In doing that, we're also doing training for investigative journalists, because our mission has always been that by the time if we ever stop doing Corruption Watch, we should have more investigative journalists that we came to meet. So that mission is still very much in our heart. And then we are also training citizen groups. So currently there are teams across how many districts that are engaged in training citizens groups. I think 24 districts or so, training citizen groups on how to understand corruption, identify it, but demand accountability from duty bearers at the local level. So it's almost like this time round we really want to build a larger ecosystem to help us to be able to keep an eye on the corruption problem across the country.
Decentralizing. I like that. All right. Well, in the minute or so that we have left, I want to give the final word to Mary. Mary, how important is the work of Corruption Watch going to be in anti-corruption advocacy in the coming months and years? And what's that specific role that GII is going to play in supporting this kind of work?
Great. So, as I mentioned earlier, the space for accountability, it's even more crucial now, particularly because of the dispensation we find ourselves in. And so we have no option but to ensure that interventions like Corruption Watch are significantly manifesting their results everywhere we go, like MTN. And so we need to it's crucial, because we have an executive that can do whatever it wants with the high levels or the high numbers it has in Parliament. So the role of civil society and interventions like this cannot be underestimated at all. We, particularly Kojo has also mentioned some of the things we want to do with the districts, and we're working across 24 districts and working with the citizens groups. There are a lot more than 13 people in each of the groups, that is leadership. So if we are able to infect all these people within the ecosystem of anti-corruption, then we would be making significant gains in this space. So very critical that we begin to do policy advocacy. We continue to do community level education and sensitization, continue to engage with the media from Accra to Zabzugu, Gambaga, and wherever we are working across the country to ensure that we are promoting the ethos of anti-corruption, to ensure that we are holding power to account, to ensure that issues around service delivery and promotion are without any facet at all of corruption in our daily lives. So for us, it's critical. And could you mention the ALAG? GI specific role, we are working on SARIS, I mean the project that is being supported in 8 districts, and each of the 3 key partners is working in 8 districts. So we are bringing on board our capacities in anti-corruption, public financial management, because that's what we are going to be downloading on our citizens groups to be able to do the work. We are bringing on board capacity from the issues around audit or the budget cycle to ensure they are informed, like the media, they are educating as well, and they are empowering their communities. If we are able to do this, and then we complement this with the Advocacy and Legal Advice Center, which still remains viable, it's a Transparency International initiative that picks corruption reports, investigates them, and then works with some states agencies in a steering committee structure to resolve them. So GI brings on board the steering committee to SARIS to ensure that whatever cases come, we are able to address them for their validity, if they merit investigation, if they merit recommendation for further work by state or our investigative journalists to then carry on to ensure that every aspect of anti-corruption, be it advocacy, be it research to gather information, and be it informing the citizenry to support our cause, is being carried out without any hindrance at all. So the support is there. The partnership we continue to hold very high, and we are very sure that the legal capacity as well will be brought on board to ensure we are doing a good job. And Corruption Watch this time will do more than we have done before.
That's right. Could you let me thank the EU for their support, but I think, giving all the challenges of external support, that we begin to also talk about how Ghanaians themselves can support these kinds of programming. And I think it's something, as we go along, we'll hope we'll be able to persuade more Ghanaians. Even 1 cedi will make a big difference for Frederick to buy ice water. And ice water now is more than 1 cedi.
Yes.
So how much is it?
Depends on which one. 50 pesos.
We drink the 2 cedis one.
And investigative journalism achins you. Right, that's an important call. I want to say a big thank you to all of you, Dr. Kojo Pumpuni Asante from CDD, Mary Ada from GII, and of course Frederick and Francisca, 2 Corruption Watch investigators. Thanks also to Jerry, who recounted his personal ordeal.